If you're thinking of retiring to Florida, you might want to rethink your decision for a few reasons, one of which being the rise of inflation. In this video, I'll discuss exactly what inflation is and talk about reasons why it's rising in the state of Florida. So if you're interested in learning more, stay tuned. Now, the impact of inflation is something that can really eat away at your retirement funds. So it's something you should definitely consider as you are determining your retirement destination. So let's start by defining the word inflation. What exactly is inflation? Webster's dictionary defines inflation as a continuing rise in the general price level, usually attributed to an increase in the volume of money and credit relative to the availability of goods and services. So in short, inflation is just the increase in prices. An example that we can see this as of late is in the increases in the price of gas that we've experienced over the last 3 years. So I'm going to use New York as an example. The Energy Information Administration has reported that in late 2020, New York gas prices averaged about $2.52 per gallon. Now by late 2021, they had gone up to $3.71 per gallon. Now as of the first quarter of 2022, gas prices were up to $5.18 per gallon. So this means if you had a 10-gallon tank, while in 2020 it cost you about $25 to fill up your tank, by 2022, it cost you double that, even more than double that to fill up your tank. Why does this matter? I mean, why should you care? Well, inflation is really detrimental to your income, especially if you're on a fixed income, as most retirees are. And according to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, inflation is highest in some cities in Florida relative to other major cities in all of the US. So in some of the major cities in the Northeast, in states such as New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, we saw a year-over-year increase in prices of up to 6.3%. However, inflation in some of the major cities in Florida, such as Fort Lauderdale or Miami, was actually 9.6%. In fact, in St. Petersburg or in Tampa, inflation was as high as 10.2%. This really begs the question, why is inflation so high in Florida? Why is it higher than other major cities? Well, there are actually three main reasons for this. First has to do with the Florida tax structure. The Florida tax structure is incredibly inviting to both businesses and high net worth or high income earning individuals. Florida charges no personal income tax and has actually relatively low corporate tax when compared to other states. After the COVID-19 pandemic showed us that we no longer have to be physically tied or bound to our desks, some of the nation's most renowned businesses have begun to move to Florida in order to take advantage of the incredible tax incentives that the state provides. So in effect, you have these really renowned companies who employ these high income earning individuals who are moving to Florida where there's no income tax, which means their take home is higher relative to what it was in the past. Now, since they have more money to spend, that in effect is increasing the supply of money that we're seeing circulating in the Florida economy, which is increasing the level of inflation in Florida. Companies aren't the only ones we're seeing move to Florida. We're also seeing general increase in migration patterns when it comes to seniors, as well as individuals who are looking for tax havens. According to a 2020 Miami-based report, Florida receives an increase of about 1,000 new residents every single day. Individuals are really coming from either colder areas or high tax areas, such as New York, Boston, California, or Chicago. It's true that most people tend to move to Florida because of its great weather. However, as of late, we have seen an increase in the number of people who want to move to Florida, given the government's capping of what's known as SALT taxes. SALT taxes are state and local taxes which could be deducted from your federal personal tax return. In the past, there was no limit on the amount of taxes that you could deduct, and these taxes included real estate property taxes, personal property taxes, or even city taxes that you were charged. However, in previous years, the government has now placed a cap on the amount of money that you can actually deduct from all of these taxes combined. and that cap is $10,000. So now that these taxes have been capped, individuals who live in higher taxed areas are making their way down to Florida in order to lower their tax bills. The effect of this is, again, to increase the amount of money supply in the Florida economy, which is also going to drive up the inflation in Florida as well. The third reason why inflation is so high in Florida has to do with investors. Now, it's true that this is really specifically about the real estate market, but you do feel the ripple effects of what takes place in real estate across other industries and areas that provide goods and services as well. Now, in March of this year, 60 Minutes did some reporting on the US housing market. They shared that institutional investors, otherwise known as Wall Street investors, are buying up 30% of single-family homes that are on the market. And two things happen when they purchase these homes. The first of which is they rent them out at an inflated price above the previous market standard. The second thing that happens is they hold on to these homes, which effectively lowers the supply of homes on the market and thereby increases the prices of homes on the market. So one could say that Wall Street investors are artificially controlling the levers of the real estate market in Florida. So just to drive the point home in terms of why this matters and why we should care, it's one thing when you have two individuals who are competing to purchase a home, right? So let's say you have person A who earns $100,000, person B who also earns $100,000. Both individuals are relatively the same and equal, and they're competing and trying to purchase the same house. So it's more of an apples to apples comparison. Now, the scales tip a little bit when you have person A who's earning $100,000 competing with a multi-billion-dollar company. Right? It's no longer a fair fight. It's no longer apples to apples comparison. And it's an even separate phenomenon altogether when you have two multi-billion-dollar companies who are both competing to purchase the same home. That is definitely going to drive up prices, and that's the final reason why we're seeing not only inflation when it comes to real estate in Florida, but inflation overall when it comes to goods and services in most of the urban cities in Florida. In addition, while the individual's ability to purchase a home is directly impacted by interest rates, this isn't the case for a corporate investor who tend to be all cash buyers. So given that, we don't anticipate inflation or the interest of investors in Florida to temper down anytime soon. All right, that's it for this video, which not only defines inflation, but helps call attention to reasons why inflation might be higher in some cities in Florida relative to other urban cities. If you enjoyed the video and you learned something new, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.